If I wonder, I can review an anime classic, something from my anime collection in there from the 80s, for like a redo review. What can I pick? Oh, this one. Because I wanted to cover something very good for a change, huh? As on being said, today we're going to be doing a redo type of review on another classic anime movie directed by Mamoru Oshii, which is something that I haven't thought of doing a redo review for an anime film that is 39 years, almost 40 years old, and it came out on February 11th, 1983, is Urusei Yatsura Only You. The film was directed by Mamoru Oshii, and it's his directorial debut as well, even though Urusei Yatsura is based on the manga of the same name by Rumiko Takahashi as well. But it's either you do a redo review of Urusei Yatsura Only You, or do an anime review on a tsundere anime, such as Toradora or To Love Ru. But I haven't done a review on either of those two as of yet, but that'll be a subject for another time. So let's review this classic, because it's 39 years since it came out on this day. Happy anniversary to this anime movie, Urusei Yatsura Only You, that came out on this day, which has been 39 years ago. For today's anime retrospect, we're going to be doing a redo review on let's look back with Urusei Yatsura Only You. So let's begin. So, the story and the plot tells a story about the silhouette shadow of which starts out that looks exactly like an animated children's book, especially where you see the two silhouettes of a boy and a girl were playing just as usual, which makes you feel like it's a kid's film. Well, technically it's not exactly a kid's film, but to get what they're saying isn't any different than any other from the point-off starters as well for this particular classic, especially for Urusei Yatsura Only You. Once the boy steps on the silhouette of the girl's silhouette, it just thought it was like the proposal of marriage. Once it steps on it, thinks the marriage proposal is on her planet. Which that's how it's all occurred to this as well. 11 years later comes, and everyone got all, including Megane Kakugari GB Perm and Shutaro Mendo. Almost everyone has these invitation letters to the planet L as well. Meanwhile, we get to see in the school part where we see Ataru and Lum appearing at the school. Heard all the rumors going around, especially with everyone noticed of who is this L person is, until this wasn't long when Ataru got tortured by the other students, particularly when he's chained up to the clock, until how he always been tortured as always, just like how he's been chained up, just like in the first episode of the Urusei Yatsura series. Despite how this happened goes until and thought how he's been tortured, that wasn't long until Lum arrives, right after Shinobu as well. Until, especially of who is this L, do you ask, in this particular part in the anime as well. Of how something mysterious and strange happening, which some UFO appeared landing in the school, on top of the school building, with the night, the flashes of lightning and the bluish night sky appears as well. once everyone in the school saw, which looked like something that is straight right out of Close Encounters of a Third Kind, which looks like a little reference to that, wasn't it? Speaking of which, until this person came from the planet L, saying that Ataru Moroboshi thought he's been selected to have the marriage of Elda Rosenbach as well. But this wasn't long until how that sets the Lum off as well, until moments later, Lum was all depressed and figured out that she could have wondered if Ataru Moroboshi is going to marry L, as how this happened. But this wasn't long until Ben 10 arrived, after she left the cafe, until she met Ben 10 as well. Until they noticed something coming out of nowhere, which is Lum's stalker here, disguised as an Earthling as well. Which is, the stalker appeared, comes from out of nowhere. What is it with stalkers in anime? Could have been more different than Jennifer Aniston, wasn't it? Especially, well, to be honest, it's how this happened in the Urusei Yatsura movie. That wasn't long until Lum and Ben 10 stopped there at a beef bowl restaurant as well. How they wanted to invite everyone, including Lum's friends, which we'll get to later on in this part. So at this point of how the story goes, is how when Ataru is getting ready to say goodbye to his parents and all, but his parents look all worried and disappointed of how Ataru has always been like this and all. But that wasn't long until Lum arrived to save Ataru, who especially went the giant vacuum cleaner, including everyone, and including the humans, especially, because Lum wanted to marry Ataru in this at first, which is at first sting, as how this goes, including her friends like Ran, Oyuki, Benten, Kurama, and Lum's ex-boyfriend Rei from the third episode of the Urusei Yatsura anime series. In this part, that's how, because they are all in this space cab bus with that space cab alien driver looking thing from the first Urusei Yatsura first appearance in the movie for the first time, basically, of how he appeared. And then once they go into outer space, so this leads you to the montage with the song Hoshizora Cycling, which is the Cosmic Cycler song, which you hear from, which was originally used for the ending from the Urusei Yatsura TV series goes, as how this pretty goes as well. But this is how it was until once they were boarded at Lum's father's spaceship in this, of how where Lum and his parents and Ataru's parents wanted to figure it out about who is inviting Ataru to marry L. But if they could figure out. But at this point, Lum always wants to be in love with Ataru, as how this goes, particularly in this how it goes. When Lum and Ataru are in love together alone in the dark, like, area inside the spaceship with where they see something in outer space, she found like a engagement ring with tiger stripes on it, because she's in love with Ataru, but Ataru wanted to see L at first, but this wasn't long until something causing a little brouhaha from out of nowhere as well, which something very suspicious appeared at Lum's father's spaceship as well, especially the UFO, as well, as they're going to figure out. As Lum's stalker appears from out of nowhere, working as a spy for L, knocking out one of Lum's father's spaceship pilots as well, disguised as one. And then this wasn't long until she knocks Lum out with a hammer-looking thing, which is very how in the hell did she do that in this one? We got another antagonist since Milady De Winter from D'Artagnan and the Three Muskehounds, huh? Once Lum's stalker disguises as Lum when she takes Ataru away from Lum, because the way that Lum's stalker disguises as Lum, looking almost a little bit like Katy Perry in the process, especially. She hijacks Lum's father's Tiger Jets as well, and then this wasn't long until Lum has woken up, like she has been overslept or something. But then she has to rescue Ataru at first, especially when how this happened, because they thought that something has kidnapped Ataru, as how this goes, particularly of how the story goes. And then once it destroyed the ship as well, Ataru could have had been realized that he thought that Lum has been dead, but she survived in that bubble-like device, which saved Lum's life as well. And this how it sets Ataru off, and then he's starting to feel like he's almost heartbroken when he's a little teary-eyed as well, because he thought that Lum was dead, but she survived, apparently. That's how this happened. Meanwhile, on the planet L, later on, Shitaru Mendo, Shinobu, Kaokugari, Chibi, Perm, and Megane with Ataru appeared at the arrival of Elda Rosenbach, of how he wants to have every women in the world, like, of his own harem. That's something what you expect to see how it happens, wasn't it? Well, speaking of which, this scene particularly, how when this wasn't long until the arrival of Elda Rosenbach came, and she knew that she remembered Ataru since childhood, since 11 years as well, of how they remembered since they were children, especially. Coming to the fact of how their childhood goes as well. But this one, even though she has like a probably like these 9,999 frozen boys that are all freezed up, which it looks a little bit something that is coming out of Star Wars Empire Strikes Back in that scene. And then she thought that Shitaro Mendo is the perfect one to be the 100,000 frozen boy guy, as well as the other ones as well. But this wasn't long until Shinobu has to rescue Shitaro Mendo with her brute strength in the process of how she had to rescue Shitaro Mendo as well. Because Shitaro Mendo is lucky that he survived, but this wasn't long until they're surrounded by the bad guys who are under the work of L, as how this goes, which got them surrounded and they were captured. And Ataru was right all along of how he was very pissy with Elda Rosenbach, that she has been keeping a lot of frozen guys like prisoners, like in its own like little refrigerator thing, which I think this might have upset her. So her guards had taken Ataru away, like its own little solitary confinement, after he has to cancel the wedding between Ataru and Elder Rosenbach, as how this goes. Meanwhile, far away from the Lum and her friends could figure out of how they could stop Ataru from marrying Elder Rosenbach, of how their plan goes accordingly. And Lum could have figured out if she could always want to be in love with Ataru, so she has the perfect feeling a little heartbroken that she misses Ataru, even though Ataru's been captured to the planet L, as how this goes. Especially with the montage with the song Lum no Ballon by Fumi Hirano plays in this montage. Meanwhile, this how the argument between Ataru and Lum's annoying toddler cousin, Jerry 10, or 10 for short, of how he realized that he's been an idiot of himself, of how this happened, even though they were chained up to on the foot as like prisoners, as go like its own little. Because I think that's probably Planet L's own solitary confinement, especially when he refuses to do the wedding, especially the marriage proposal between him and Elder Rosenbach as well. Till the next day comes the wedding between Elder Rosenbach and Ataru Moroboshi has arrived in at the church as well. But this is how Lum has got the idea to how she could rescue Ataru from marrying Elder Rosenbach, as how this goes particularly. This goes in this, well, which is something very got accordingly, where she has to stop Elder Rosenbach from marrying Ataru at the wedding as well. And then after she takes out the planet Elder Rosenbach's bodyguards and using a spaceship, as well as you had Ben 10, who is on high speed pursuit to defeat the Elder Rosenbach's guards chasing all. And Oyuki uses her ice powers to fight off the bad guys who are working for Elder Rosenbach. And then you had Ray, who is in the tiger triceratops cow-looking monster, eating all those beef bowls from every restaurant of how he could find, because I guess he's probably hungry. That's why, because all he cares about is food. That's why. Because you know how he is as well, of his personality. As soon as the wedding comes, particularly how Ataru could have almost married Elder Rosenbach. When Elder Rosenbach calls, I probably Ataru as her honey as well, because they're at the wedding. That's why. So this wasn't long until Lum has screaming out Ataru's name as her darling on a church window, and this is the scene which is basically a reference to The Graduate, which is a 1967 film starring Dustin Hoffman, until Ataru calls out Lum's name, and then she found Ataru, because Ataru thought Lum was dead, but she's alive when Lum is hugging Ataru, all teary-eyed, and how emotional he gets, until the conflict between her and Elder Rosenbach, when Elder Rosenbach calls Lum the Oni girl, and then Lum calls Elder Rosenbach the darling thief. Yep. And then until her guards came, that's her back, including the old lady Barbara, or whatever you want to pronounce Elder Rosenbach's older lady's name. Yeah, if you want me to pronounce it as well. But this wasn't long until all the frozen 99,999 boys that are not all frozen because they've been unfreezed, and they're all alive. And even Kurama has all the hots for every men who are used to be frozen by Elder Rosenbach all along, which they are. Because they had to stop the wedding ceremony for, especially on how they prevent Ataru from marrying Elder Rosenbach as well, until they had to get away by Lum's space cab with that space cab driver alien thing from the first episode, which, you guessed it, until they could figure out of how they notice of how what Ataru remembers, if there's something true of how if a younger Ataru and Elder Rosenbach sees their younger selves from the past, of how they were playing along, having fun, like, as usual. Like, if they could have stepped on its own shadow proposal, which it doesn't happen, because they thought, and Ataru was right, because nothing happened, because if they could figure out if the past by itself, if how he could figure out all along at this point. By this time, of course, Elder Rosenbaum told her younger self that she can go home now, which is a very little, a little emotional kind of thing, in a nicer kind of way. Not to be rude or anything, wasn't it? At this point, this was before they bring Elder Rosenbaum to her planet, as well, until they went back into space as well, and then Elder Rosenbaum, which is almost in a good way, Elder Rosenbaum, who could still remember of her memory, especially of how she could have remembered, if she can remember Ataru all along, if she could know if Ataru was going to marry Lum as well. Once they were in space, in their space cab, which is a little something out of the ending scene from The Graduate as well, when Ataru was about to kiss with Lum, but this wasn't long until they arrived to the wedding ceremony for Lum and Ataru. Once the wedding ceremony comes, Lum was about to get married with Ataru Moroboshi, as how this goes along. Which, if this gotten true, if Ataru wanted to be married to Lum, as well as the wedding goes, if she could figure out if there's something wrong happened with Ataru, but something didn't, what he got in mind, that things just never go on quite pretty well, so he doesn't want to marry Lum, so he just runs out of the wedding ceremony, so Lum, including everyone, followed Ataru after all. And that's how you end the movie, with the ending theme song, which is with the clip from with the credits scroll from of this movie, with the scene from the current second season of the Urusei Yatsura TV series. So that's the plot. That's all I know for the plot for the Urusei Yatsura movie, Urusei Yatsura Only You. Even though this was released in Japan on February 11th, 1983, I must say is that this anime, I have heard good things about this particularly as well. Well, this has gotten to a point as how this goes, particularly, like, you know, as how you want to expect, which is something very good because this is not only have the movie has been released, although there's only like 2 different versions of their theatrical version of the first Urusei Yatsura movie runs for like 93 minutes. However, the director's cut version of the first Urusei Yatsura movie only runs about an hour and 1 minute. Wow. That sounds very interesting, especially for an anime movie as well. Even though this was released after, I believe, just right after episodes 58, between episodes 58 and 57 and 59 of this particular anime series as well. Despite though, this is also the directorial debut of Mamoru Oshii, because I think he was working on half of the Urusei Yatsura series in its continuity as how this goes. Yeah, because he thought of something, because he had no regret of how he made the first Urusei Yatsura movie as well, in a little A grade or a B grader type of way as well. Although the manga artist Rumiko Takahashi loved the first Urusei Yatsura movie, and it's considered to be her favorite, and it's also very true to the to the original source of the series. The animation is good. I loved the backgrounds, especially. It's kind of like a little reminiscent feeling to Super Dimension, either to other anime, such as, for example, Space Battleship Yamato, especially where Lum and Ataru are in love, especially when Ataru wanted to figure out if he said he was going to see Elder Rosenbach, but when Lum puts the ring on Ataru's finger as well, when she found a ring for Ataru, the space-like backgrounds is a little kind of reminiscent to Space Battleship Yamato in its own certain manner in those days as well. And also, not only you have that, this also has a little feeling like Super Dimension Fortress Macross kind of way in those certain thing as how when Lum tries to rescue Ataru just to prevent Ataru from marrying Elder Rosenbach in this particular manner as well, especially for the animation as well. The production's very good, because I know that this was basically how they were working on it, although the Urusei Yatsura anime TV series was still airing at the time as well. Come to think of it, as how they wanted to do this particularly for an anime movie like this as well. Well, come to think of it, as how you would expect for an anime like this particularly. And to the point of view as though, we all know there's some characters on there. There's most like secondary characters, the first of these characters. There's some minor characters, like characters that shown rarely, especially to any certain character. Well, first of the primary characters that are shown throughout the movie as well, especially how they do this as well. I know there are some moments on there, especially where Lum is in love with Ataru, because I thought that scene had some moments as well. Yeah, because from what I understand as well, because I thought that scene was pretty heartbreaking. And also another scene that is very emotional, which is the Lum no Baland, which I thought it sounded a little emotional, and Ataru thought that Lum was dead, but she wasn't. When Ataru is like hugging Lum, because he knew that he's all teary-eyed. Now that's very emotional, especially how this goes. For overall, for this one, if you haven't seen an anime, if you want to binge watch on something like Urusei Yatsura Only You, this is the perfect one, which is a primary example of watching retro anime movies from the 80s, especially if you want to watch something good as well, especially for a rewatch, especially for an anime like Urusei Yatsura Only You. Even though this particularly of how it has another kind of priority type of feeling as well. And also, my overall score for this one, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 as well. Just to let y'all know as well. Especially for an anime movie like Urusei Yatsura Only You as well. And also, if you like this movie, I highly have to recommend you for this, along with other anime movies like Farewell to Space Battleship Yamato and Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro, and many other anime movies under the recommendation, particularly of how this goes. Just to consider how Mamoru Oshii worked on this as well. Yeah. Even though that this movie was basically, I consider to be the very first out of all the 6 of the Urusei Yatsura theatrical film movies on there. Even though I have been watching this on the VHS, though, although Discotheque Media finally got the Blu-ray release on here, I will be picking it up soon at one point, because I am on a strict budget. I have as well. And if you haven't seen an anime movie like Urusei Yatsura Only You, give this a watch. I highly recommend you, if you have it on DVD, VHS, or Laserdisc. It's also free. It's also available on Crunchyroll if you want to watch it either in English dub or in Japanese. Although it did got an English dub by Animego in 2003, but I like to watch it in its original Japanese with English subtitles, because that's a better way to understand and to read the subtitles primarily as well. And this conclusion for my review on the Urusei Yatsura Only You as well. This is particularly the very first Urusei Yatsura movie under the 6 of theatrical Urusei Yatsura movies as well. Despite though, this has got a lot of these for every anime fans all over the world as well. I mean, it's so very good than any other anime hasn't done before, particularly. Even though it did got a sequel, which is Urusei Yatsura Beautiful Dreamer, which I'll be covering for the most part in the future as well. Especially for to binge watch on something for a good rewatching an anime classic like this one as well. Yeah, because this is how I'm looking back on my little retrospect, because I think I remember watching the first Urusei Yatsura Only You movie on New Year's Eve, because I thought it was pretty good as well, from what I understand particularly as well. So that's going to be it for my anime review on Urusei Yatsura Only You, as a little redo type of review here on Anime Retrospect. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's what I'm going to say for this one. Well, even though I've been reviewing it once, and I have to review it twice, though, because I had to do it a little professionally way as well. Because I always have to put in conclusions, particularly, which I haven't thought of putting in conclusion as how when you finish off as well until now. Even though it's been a while since I watched Urusei Yatsura Only You on here, which I have is on VHS. Yeah, I think I watched it, probably New Year's Eve back in 2015, which I remembered as well. Hope subscribe for content. My Anime Planet link in the description down below if you want to check out my Anime Planet, because I have a huge backlog of anime on my Anime Planet account if you want to check it out as well. And let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about the first Urusei Yatsura Only You movie. Let me know what are your thoughts on Urusei Yatsura Only You in the comment section below as well. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RuRoniK95. Feel free to join my channel, especially if you're new to my channel as a newcomer. Smack the notifications bell button. Be sure to get notified also as well. And keep it otaku for this redo type of review on Anime Retrospect. Until then, on behalf of this, for the next one here on Anime Retrospect, there is something I would like to cover to take something good for a change. Until next time.